All right, so in this video, we'll begin Unit 9 on amphibians. And before we can do that, we need to talk about early tetrapods. And a tetrapod is just something that has 4 feet, right? So it could be frog, could be that bird thing over there. Even though birds only have 2 feet, they still have 4 limbs. And mouse and that lizard there are all examples of tetrapods. And so understanding how tetrapods moved onto land is important. Um, life originated in water, and so animals up to this point have had a mostly water composition. So movement onto land required a reorganization of nearly every body system. Right, every body system had to account for the fact that animals are still going to be composed of mostly water, but they're not going to have ready access to water all the time. And so, how then do you account for that? How do you regulate that water as well? And so, certain accommodations have to be made. I have no idea why that picture's there. Probably see it in my notes here. So oxygen content, you have to be able to get oxygen into the lungs so that the body cells can get oxygen in order to do cellular respiration, which is very important. Also, this is what this is about. The limbs have to be strong because of gravity, right? Gravity is affecting you. It's pulling you down toward the earth. You have to be able to lift yourself up off the earth. A fish can't do that because it doesn't need to. It's in low gravity area in the water. And so outside of the water, that is important. Temperature regulation as well is one of those because of the temperature changes, and the air is much more susceptible to temperature changes than water is. Water slowly changes temperature because water is able to absorb so much energy. Then certain behavioral and physiological changes have to be made in order to account for that. And then, of course, all the different habitat diversity present on land, animals have to be able to adapt to use those as well. And so, the early evolution of tetrapods began in a period called the Devonian Period, which is typically called the age of fish. So you would expect that those tetrapods would come from the age of fish. Swim bladder structures like that we talked about with the fish, and internal nares. Internal nares is a fancy way of saying like nostrils that are internal. These are significant features that allow for evolution on land, being able to breathe air with your mouth closed, or being able to eat and breathe at the same time, something that we take for granted that fish are able to do because of gills. But if you opened your mouth and you weren't able to breathe, that would cause a problem, right? If you ate for too long, you would just pass out and die. That's not good. Paired limb and limb girdles also help with this. I don't have a picture of a limb girdle, I don't think. And a limb girdle is basically like your shoulders. Your shoulders attach your arms, give your arms support, attach it to the backbone, allow you to move and support weight. And so here's a picture of Tiktaalic. This is probably the first precursor to early tetrapods and the link between tetrapods and lobe-finned fishes. This likely happened in freshwater environments first. Freshwater environments are more prone to rapid change. Animals there had to adapt. Again, the whole thing has to be changed. And so if you think about the circulatory system, even has to work in such that it is doing gas exchange in the lungs now as opposed to the gills. And so there's a lot of systemic changes that have to occur in order for these first tetrapods to inhabit the land. Here's a picture of some mud skippers that look like they're singing or maybe worshiping or something, but they're just gulping air to breathe because that's what they're able to do. And that leads us to more modern amphibians. Modern amphibians are tied to water still, so they still have that tetrapod ancestry. Their eggs require water. Their skin has to remain moist in order for most of their body functions, including respiration. Some amphibians actually retain their gills and their lateral line. Both of these are things that are structures that are found in fish, kind of a holdover from their evolutionary past, which you'd expect to see. Larvae are always aquatic every time. That has to do with the eggs being laid in water, and they metamorphose into adults that are able to live on land. Hence the word amphibians, which means both land and water.